there anything more to discuss in terms of the challenges, or, you know, how do you know when you've arrived at this place where your program's fully in place?
Well, the back to the challenge issue, as an experienced coach like you and me and many others, obviously part of the problem of challenges is to cut it off before it becomes a challenge. And so premeditated communication with parents and players, and being very, very clear. I think one of the biggest problems coaches have in the experience department is that they run into problems that they could have avoided had they created either a communication vehicle such as a course syllabus like we do in college, or a team syllabus that describes exactly how the players make the team, what is expected, all those kind of things. That's one thing that really is critical to being able to avoid confrontation because a parent didn't know, or a player didn't know. So there's one element to that.
Let me get into that, because that can be tough depending on where you're at, because I've noticed that as we go along, this new generation seems to have a larger percentage of kids who ignore things.
Yeah. Yep.
But not all of them. And I'm actually against the pigeonholing of generations. You know, so I don't. You know, there's nothing new under the sun. You know, teenagers are much the same as they were in 1989 when I started. They're not a lot different. Right. But I have noticed that they're getting better at ignoring stuff. So I give them my syllabus, and then they act like they've never seen it before. Whereas other kids, you know, in past generations, you know, kids, you'd go, hey, remember that was written like that? And then they go, oh no, right? And then now I'm getting, wait, what are you talking about? So, and I think that part of that is the competition for their attention.
Yeah.
Now, the other interesting thing is that there's like this disconnect of, you know, okay, so I'm in my first year, and the girls up until the first day of practice had no idea who I was. Sure. Or what I was about. And so I've had my team captain say to me, oh yeah, coach, a lot of the girls were thrown off by this showing up every day thing.
Yep.
And I was flabbergasted. I was like, whoa. And I had to not respond, because I knew I had to like percolate on that one for a bit. But you know, this being there every day thing is pretty important to our overall success.
Yeah.
So we're going to be here every day.
Right. Well, and that again goes back to the how you frame that to your players at the very start of the season, and define that. And again, you know, our goal, what is our goal? If our goal is to win state, well, there are certain parameters that have to be met for us to be improved and to reach that goal. And we practice 3 hours a day. I mean, 6 days a week. I mean, we have a Saturday morning practice it's not mandatory, but we get most of the girls out there, and boys as well. In fact, my boys come out with the girls. I mean, I had a dozen boys come out to hit with my girls towards the end. I tell them not to come out till we get ready for region, when I don't have all 35 of my girls, and I'm just working with my varsity. And so I have my top boys come out. And same thing with my girls. My girls can beat probably 98% of the boys teams in the state. So during boys season, I want my girls to come out and hit with them, because they're that good, and it's going to elevate my boys to another level down the road, and eventually they'll get better. I've only been with the boys a year and a half, and unfortunately that new school that just opened up took my number 1, my number 2, and my number 4 players from my boys varsity. So my 4-year prediction for my boys might be postponed another year, because we didn't anticipate losing my state runner-up number freshman and my state semifinalist sophomore to the same school. So sometimes that does happen.
So I think for me, I one of the things that I know that my program's starting to take is when the kids start telling me stuff that I'm supposed to be doing, and they think they're going to catch me sort of napping or going against something that I've already said.
Right.
So do you ever, I mean, I can't imagine that happens to you. You just look so organized and thorough. I can't imagine the kids catching you and going, Coach Dave, or I don't even know what they call you, but you know, Coach, wait a minute, you said this. I mean, do you ever
Yeah.
get that?
Well, I mean, again, from experience, when I create a directive, I often paraphrase it with a there's always an exception to the rule kind of mentality.
Yeah.
So I don't run into, because it's not an all or nothing, say it's a drill or a stroke technique, and you know, whether it's a footwork pattern or whatever, I, you know, always preface that with, there's going to be exceptions to all these general rules, but the foundation of what you're trying to do is based on this core thing that I'm teaching you. You're going to evolve that. If you probably read my books or my articles, and I talk a lot about advanced foundation evolution. If you look at 100 pros, they all look the same, or they all look different depending on what you're looking at.
Right.
The idiosyncrasies are personal developments based on the advanced foundation that they develop. Every player, I had this discussion with Hank Pfister, you know, the great French Open doubles champion. I think Hank was ranked 4th in the world at one point back in the 70s. And Hank said, "Oh, I really don't like these clinics or these academies that clone players."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Hank, let me tell you something. I've trained 3,500 players exactly the same way. You want to know something? No two play alike. And it's impossible to clone players, because personality, personal preference, personal perception of strengths and weaknesses is going to take that advanced grip, say a continental grip on the volley and serve, or the stroke pattern on ground stroke, whatever, and it's going to evolve it, much like you see in the pros. That's why Djokovic can mimic virtually all these players in a funny way. Mm-hmm. Because those are the idiosyncrasies, but they're based on the advanced foundation. If you teach a player a poor grip, to say, okay, we're just going to teach you an Eastern forehand grip on the volley so you can bunt the ball over the net and so you can play tennis. Well, that's a grip that's going to have to change if they're going to play a 5-0 level player down the road. Well, right. It's going to be the hardest thing in the world to make that player change, especially if they've started developing and playing, competing using the inferior grip. And yeah, attrition.
Okay, let me jump in there. I got 2 things. One on grips. Okay, so Robert Lansdorp says that you have about 10 to 12 hours of instructional time to teach grips. And then beyond that, then a player sort of has become imprinted with the grip that they're going to have, and good luck changing it.
He's exactly right.
And then the other thing I wanted to back up from, you know, because you had said something good and I wanted to interject earlier, was that I think it's a really good best practice for new coaches not to paint yourself in a corner with absolute statements like, you know, it's always like this or it's always like that. You know, correct. always leave, you know, leave some leeway for yourself to get out of something later, or to qualify or dig deeper, go drilling down into greater detail. You know, I know when I was younger, when I was brand new to coaching, I would paint myself into a corner that I couldn't get out of. So, be very careful in the way you present things. That can be very helpful.
I think the key to that is one of the things I pride myself on is I teach the why as well as the how. So if I'm teaching a grip or a stroke pattern, a footwork pattern, a body position, I always teach the why. Why are you doing it this way? And then the student understands how the grip or whatever the process or technique or stroke is. They understand why it's being taught that way. And so one of the things I never have a problem with my students ever going to another club or another pro or taking from a coach that teaches tennis, because, and I'll have parents often say, hey, do you mind is it going to be a problem if I take my kid because I can't work with all my kids year round. I'm not going to do that. So I encourage that. But a lot of times I'll have a parent say, well, are they going to teach the same thing? Because we want our kids to learn what you're teaching them. And I said, number one, your kid understands why they're learning what they're learning. So when they go to another camp or a clinic or a coach or a pro, and they teach them something different, my students know to either ask, my students know to ask to, delve into, why are you teaching me that? Or how is that going to equate? So, I mean, they're not all that smart, but let's face it, they do understand it.
Hopefully they don't do this. Hopefully they don't go, well, my other coach said, right? I mean, that's like, where'd he go?
There he is. My battery's dying. So.
And that's always really amusing, when you've got some kid on the court and they go, but my other coach said this. And I'm like,
I don't get too much of that. I think one of the things
fine.
every coach who has studied the sport, and obviously that's one of the reasons why I'm writing a new tennis book specifically for the high school coach, because let's face it, most high school coaches don't have a lot. They don't have 45 years of experience. I mean, I know that, but it doesn't. You can save time if you learn certain things and understand how they will project a year down the road or 2 years down the road or so on. The worst thing I see is coaches who just let their players continue to do what they think that they're going to get better, and they will within the context or the limitations of a poor stroke, grip, foundation, whatever. And so one of the things that I I'll ask my players, or they'll tell me, one of the most rewarding things I'll have a student tell me is they go, Coach, do you see those girls use the Eastern grip on their serve? Sorry, just lost it. And they will inevitably point out the flaws that the opponents have. And I said, now you understand why we teach what we teach.
Right.
So that's probably the ultimate reward, is when my players are so knowledgeable of what they're doing that they can recognize the failure or the flaws in their opponent's game.
Yeah. Like, here's an example of that for me is that I'm a stickler on no serves in the net. Okay, so with my better teams who serve better, every 3 serves as the team that goes in the net, everybody drops and does 10 push-ups.
Right.
And I get around the don't punish with exercise rule by saying that it's a reward.
It is.
You're getting stronger. 3 balls in the serve, and you get to do 10 push-ups, right? And so I usually limit it at 50. Once they've done 50 push-ups, then we don't do it anymore. Right. I'm like, obviously you guys want to do a lot of push-ups, so keep hitting the balls in the net. Congratulations.
And there's no penalty if they hit it long, so why are they going to the net?
But then a funny thing happens, my joke is serves in the net make me want to vomit, right? And then then there's the whole walk of shame thing. And then the other thing that really motivates them, I was like, look, if you hit it long, they have to pick it up.
That's true.
Oh, wow, coach. I mean, that's enough for a lot of teenagers. I don't have to pick it up. They do.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Make them pick it up. Excellent. But a funny thing happens, then we get playing the matches, and they see the other teams hitting a tremendous amount of serves in the net. Right.
Yep.
And then they also get to attack a lot of really short serves, because so that mentality of hitting the deeper serve. So anyway, all right, I'm getting the feeling that it's about time for us to wrap up here, but have we reached the end? I mean, what's the coup de grace? What is the denouement of this conversation? How do you know when you've gotten through your 4 years and now you're there? What's the deal?
Well, then it's to keep it moving in the same direction, and that's where we're at right now. My first year we were 3rd in state. My second year we were 2nd in state by 2 points. Last year we were 2nd in state by 1, and this year we're state champions by 6 points. Our goal, of course, the hard thing is we're losing 5 seniors off our top 7, but we have an incredible JV program of girls that are playing tournament tennis now. They're ready to step in. So our goal is to get those girls ready. And all those girls, we took 21 girls to state so they could observe, watch, and really absorb that feeling of what we achieved this year, state championship. And so those girls now know what they want to do. And
no, that is so great, because then when they get there, the atmosphere won't shock them.
They won't be unfamiliar with it, for sure.
Yeah, that is tremendous. So I think that's also another really smart thing to do. Take your younger players to those higher level competitions that the varsity's playing.
Yep.
So they
and the funny thing is, I know coaches take their seniors as a reward to those seniors. Well, those seniors are not going to help you next year. And there's other ways to reward your seniors. We reward our seniors heavily. But that is one thing I will never flinch on, and that is I will always take my returning JV players to state, to region, and they are the ones, and I tell them, I corral them, and I say, I want you to pay attention, because you are going to be in those shoes on that court next year. Are you going to be ready? And they are so pumped. They come off the court when we have to drive 4.5 hours to get to state. We're driving back, and the girls are like, Coach, I want to go hit. I want to go hit now. And that to me, I've done my job.
You have 364 days to prepare.
That's right.
So
that's right.
All right. Hey, Dave, thank you so much. Or do you go by Dave?
I do.
Okay, because I've only seen it as David, and I don't want to be too presumptuous.
Either way, it's Coach Dave, Coach Smith.
All right, awesome. Hey, thanks so much for your time, and
pleasure.
I look forward to doing this again soon, so we'll have to dream up the topic. If you're watching this, then if you want to send us a suggestion for a topic,
that would be great.
We really want to keep it to team tennis and most all the time high school tennis. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much, Dave. Take care.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks for watching, folks.